How's it going, guys? The Blacklisted Voice, episode 3 coming out. We have longtime client of mine, Johanna Moore. She's now working with Matt Grimm on to tell us a little bit more about kind of her experience through fitness, athletics, is work-life balance. She also got to have a cool experience. She went out to the CrossFit Health Seminar that was put on by Greg Glassman, and I believe he's still doing those, so she can give a little bit of insight into those. So Joanna, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, work, athletics, just kind of training history, background, and everything?
Yeah. My name is Johanna. I live in Minnesota, and I am kind of like a high achiever person. I am a physician. I'm an emergency physician now, and I've been athletic my whole life. I grew up as a competitive swimmer, swam through college, I swam at a D3 program, I guess, too, which is a little different than D1. So also played water polo in college for 3 years, and also played softball growing up and played softball my freshman year of college because they were super desperate to have women on their team. And then did that for 1 year, and I was like, not doing that anymore. Yeah, and then everyone wanted me to play water polo because when you're a swimmer, like it's easier to learn that skill rather than be good at like soccer and then play, or something like that. And so I didn't want to play my first year because I thought I would be really bad at it. I was like, oh, I have to be really aggressive, and it's so like physical, and I don't know if I could do that. And I started playing my sophomore year, and I was the absolute most aggressive, like worst person in the entire water.
Explain that a little bit more, because like when you see water polo, like you see these people on top of the water, and like it looks like they're passing a ball around, but like when I was talking to you and Travis, like it gets pretty aggressive in the pool.
Yeah, it does. So I guess an analogous sport on land would be like ice hockey / soccer. So there's 6 players in the water, you're set up like a ring. There's like one person in the middle right in front of the goal. It's called the whole set, and a lot of like stuff is happening right there in that area. And then people are on the outside, like more field players, and that's what I played. I played mostly on the right side because I was left-handed, so I had a good like shot.
Okay.
And then there's things like, so you just are trying to score essentially, and there's like a power play like in hockey. You can get a person can be ejected, and then you can have a 6-on-5 situation, so you have a mismatch.
Okay.
So you try to capitalize on that. But you're treading water, you're doing egg beater underneath the water the whole time, and that's the physical part. So you have a ref who's going to call a foul, ejection, stuff like that. But we have the saying that whatever happens underneath the water, it's legal until you get caught. So, so I would get out, like you'd have like bruises all over your arms and grabbing your suits. There are like water polo suits that are made so it's really hard for people to grab. They're like almost like a shiny, like slippery material, so people can't grab onto you. So that was really fun. That was actually really fun. And I just was very much like, I'm very goal oriented, and so I was told to get the ball, so that's what I tried to do, even if a person was between me and the ball. So that's how I turned. I was often like described as scrappy, was my adjective, which I didn't mind. And then, so I did that through college, and then I went to medical school straight out of college. And then every physician, well, I would say 80% of physicians that you'll meet are runners or endurance athletes, and I never have been particularly comfortable with running, so I started running in medical school, and it took me about a year to run comfortably on land. I've been swimming like up to 4 hours a day sometimes, growing up. So in med school, in residency, I did a residency in emergency medicine. I did a lot of running races. I did 4 marathons actually, and those were okay. And then I started getting hurt, dealt with a lot of like posterior chain issues. And that's about the time my friend Sarah had started doing CrossFit, and thought I would like doing that. And we went to a wedding of our mutual resident in Vermont, and I met her at the gym there, and we did a workout together, and it was like farmers carries and thrusters, and it was so hard, and I was so sore, and I thought, this is pretty cool. I think I could do this. And I think I signed up at CrossFit Mendota next week, and met you, and you did my one-on-ones, and yep, the rest is history. So
yeah. I think that was also.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
That was 2012.
Yeah. That was like, I think one of the, like when I was starting too. So we almost started like the CrossFit, like starting coaching. So like we started like the CrossFit journey together almost. So
yeah.
Pretty cool.
I have like this vivid memory of I think you were teaching me how to do a thruster, and I did like a snatch, and you're just like you're so patient. You were like, nope, that's not that. That's snatch.
You definitely see some pretty like interesting things happen, but it's all a learning curve. So you've definitely come a long way since then.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
You're actually competing in masters weightlifting now too, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so something interesting about me. So when I was a swimmer, I was always a sprint freestyler, and then with that marathon running, I pretty much beat all my fast twitch muscle fibers to death. I didn't have any more. Yeah. And those came back pretty quickly, as you know, with when I did CrossFit, and and all of a sudden I realized like I'm really good at weightlifting. Like this is something that comes very natural to me of all the CrossFit things, right? So yeah, I enjoy Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah. So where all have you traveled for that? Because you competed there 2 years now, correct?
At the Master World Championship. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So where all have you gone for that then?
Yeah. So the first year we did it was in Barcelona, Spain, 2 years ago. And then this past year was in Montreal, Canada. And it was supposed to be in Germany this upcoming summer, but they withdrew. And so now it's going to be in Orlando, Florida in August or September.
Which places do you like better, Montreal or Barcelona?
Barcelona for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more, I mean, I really liked Montreal. I'd never been there. And I'm grateful for that opportunity because I'd probably never, well, I don't want to say never, but Montreal was not really on my list of places to go. So I'm glad I got to go there, and it was cool. But Barcelona, there's a big group of us that went, and it's much more like a vacation town, and there's a lot of things to see and do there. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Do you feel like, so like after college, when you kind of like got into CrossFit and weightlifting, do you feel like that's provided you an opportunity to travel a little bit more than you may have previously?
Yeah, I think a little bit, in a different way than vacation or for work.
Yeah.
I go to a fair amount of conferences, and we live in Minnesota, and when we decided to stay in Minnesota, we made this pact that we would leave and go on trips, especially in the winter.
Yep.
So yeah, but I'm doing different things than like I thought I would ever do, right? Like I've done Master Worlds, I've done some national weightlifting competitions. I went to Carlsbad this past year, where Matt is at offshore for their Legends Masters competition, which is really fun, and I want to do again. And yeah, so it's cool to travel and meet lots of people. And then also did the level 1, the MD L1 seminar in Aromas in Northern California. So yeah, I guess I have traveled more than I thought as I'm thinking about this now. So
yeah. It's kind of one of the unique things about CrossFit is like CrossFit and like weightlifting in general is you get to kind of travel to these places that you may not have wanted to travel to particularly, but then when you get there, you're like, oh, this place is kind of cool. Like, it's exciting. So you're obviously a doctor, but you are an ER doctor on top of that. So probably a little bit more stressful than maybe like a family doctor or pediatrics or something like that. How have you balanced everything? So work, gym, life, how do you kind of like balance your day, balance training, balance actually having a life outside of work in the gym as well?
Yeah, that's that's the holy grail. I think we're all chasing that.
You're right.
Regardless of what you do for a living. I don't know that my job is, I've been doing it long enough. I finished my residency in 2010. I'm doing it long enough that actually working and seeing patients is not as stressful as people are like, wow, your job must be so stressful. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not, running cardiac arrest after cardiac arrest, and I'm not seeing some terrible motorcycle crash like every minute. It's much more routine.
Okay.
There are some sick patients there here and there, and we actually kind of thrive on those types of patients. We're like, yes, this is what I went into emergency medicine for. I didn't go in to this to refill pain meds or something.
Yeah.
So that part of it is not super stressful. Honestly, as I get older, I think what's the stressful part is the schedule. So we work is the shift work.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we do is, and I'm actually lucky to work in an environment where we have a lot of people who prefer to work night shifts, and that's what they work. So I don't even work that many night shifts per quarter, just a couple. But
Okay.
my schedule is constantly changing from, I'm getting up at 5 a.m., sometimes 3:30 a.m. to be at the hospital by 5 to do a 5 to 1 shift. Sometimes I'm doing a 4 to midnight shift. So, and there's zero, you can't predict that. Like every week is absolutely different. So I don't have a regular schedule or set schedule, which I prefer actually. If I had a routine, I think that would drive me nuts. I think it would be better for my health, probably.
Yeah. Would you find like a routine would just be kind of boring or?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know how people work 9 to 5 jobs, because if you get up early, then you're tired the rest of you'd have to get up really early, right, to get to the gym.
Yeah.
And if I have like a traditional office day where I get up around 7 or 6 or something, and then have to be at the office, and then I'm done around 4 or 5. I'm super tired. I don't, and then to train for like 90 minutes, 2 hours. That's difficult.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There were definitely times that you would come in, you'd just like, you'd almost be like fogged over in the eyes. You're like, you good? You're like, yep. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely like the not having the routine of things is kind of fun sometimes, like you were saying. So
Yeah.
so you kind of just like go to the gym like when schedule dictates then.
Correct. Yep. So so generally I try to take 2 rest days per week. Usually a Thursday and a Sunday if my schedule allows that. And actually usually it does. And that's nice.
Okay.
But if it doesn't, then I just let Matt know, and we just work around that, which is one of the great things about personalized programming.
Yep.
And yeah, and then like also if I see that I have like a day shift where I'm like, oh, that shift always makes me really tired, like I'll just say I want to do an active recovery day that day.
Okay.
And so he'll just program an active recovery, and so I'm like, if I just made it to the gym, I can do that. That's not hard.
Yeah.
So and I've also found that just showing up and getting to the gym some days is what sometimes that's the goal, that's the win of the day, right? And you're still better provided you don't kill yourself.
Yes.
Or like kill yourself like getting your heart rate up really high when it doesn't need to be that high.
Yep.
Just get moving a little bit, get your heart rate up, and breathe a little bit. That's always a good thing. So
Yeah.
some days that's the goal, versus other days.
Yep. And would you say those are kind of what your active recovery days are? Like get your heart rate up a little bit, sweat a little bit, breathe a little bit, and then you're out of the gym, or?
That's
Yeah.
I hope that's what Matt wants, because that's what I do.
Sorry, Matt.
I think it's pretty universally.
Yeah, totally.
Active recovery, right?
Yeah. Especially if it's on one of your training days, like it'll be fun. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And so you obviously have a life outside of the gym too. How do you try and find time for that and make time for that?
Yeah. So I think for me, I just have to really schedule things ahead of time, and I have very specific like limits people, because my most precious commodity is time, as it is for so many people.
Yep.
And I have made a commitment to myself and my health. And so people will ask, can you do this meeting, or can I meet you this day, or can we do this? And I just say, no, I'm going to the gym or something. Or nope, I'm going on vacation that week. I can't do that. I also make an effort to schedule vacations, and you know, and make time for that stuff. Because if you don't, your time just gets sucked up.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you deal a little bit more with the schedule. Can you describe like that sucked up time, or can you go into detail a little bit more about that, like how that happens and what that would look like?
Oh, geez. Well, yeah, I don't know. So yesterday, for example, I showed up at the hospital at 7:30 because I broke my finger the other day. So
Doing
surfing.
Yep. Another athletic endeavor for Joe.
Yeah. So anyway, I showed up at 7:30, and we spent the morning at the hospital, was in some meetings after that, and then met with our laboratory group. I do a lot of research. We're writing a grant right now. So we met to do that, worked on the grant all for a ton of time, and all of a sudden it was like 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
And I hadn't meant to spend that much time on this grant. I didn't have anything particularly planned after that, but all of a sudden it was 4 o'clock. And so my plan was to go home and eat and then probably work on it some more, but I was pretty tired when I got home. And so of course I'm just like seeing what's on Netflix or
my
Instagram account.
Yeah.
So I think there's good waste of time. So that I think using that time yesterday where time flew by and working on that grant was probably like a good use of time, not planned, but good use, versus me like perusing Instagram for an hour last night. That's probably not a good use of time.
Sometimes it's needed though.
Yeah.
To get that reset a little bit.
Yeah, I did this thing where like you delete social media off your phone for a week, and it was amazing how I didn't miss it as much as I thought after like the first couple of days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Have you read the book? I may have talked to you about this, but Deep Work by Cal Newport.
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Okay. That's a lot of like kind of what he talks about in there is like just kind of like getting rid of social media or setting blocked times for social media.
Yeah.
And you start to realize like you don't miss it as much as you would think you do.
Yeah.
So that might be one you want to look into, but the social media is definitely a time suck that might not be constructive, but sometimes. Yeah. So you did get to go to the CrossFit MD seminar. Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you describe what that is?
I'll describe it from my perspective. I don't know if I'm doing it, justice as someone like Julie Fouché or Greg Glassman would describe it. So I went to the second MD L1 seminar, and that was almost 2.5 years ago now, I think. It was the first one ever was like in February of, I think, 2017 perhaps, and I think I went in April or May or June or something. June. So it was really cool. So at that time, Glassman waived. So it's just what it is. It's just the L1 seminar, the CrossFit L1 seminar, but it's for physicians. So you have an environment where it's just healthcare professionals, or meaning like physicians, MD, DO degree. They're not opening it up at this time to nurses or RTs, occupational therapy, PT, that kind of stuff. And so the cool thing about this was Glassman waived the L1 fee, so that is what, like $1,000 or something.
Something like,
But
yeah.
we were responsible for paying for a hotel and our flight out there, and so they
Okay.
told us where to go. The actual L1 seminar was held at the ranch in Romus, so that was very cool.
Yeah.
That was
What is
very
that?
cool.
Is that a
Yeah,
pretty cool location?
yeah. I mean, well, it's so I flew into San Jose,
Okay.
and drove essentially just rented a car and drove like an hour east, and that's
Okay.
where it's at. It's a cool location, and it's you've seen pictures and things like that, and it's just cool to be there.
Yeah.
And
What
so
is
I
the
had
hill like?
oh well, I saw it in the distance. I didn't go out to it.
Oh,
It
dang. Okay.
did not look as impressive as I thought, but I'm sure if I did it, I would be like, this sucks. Um,
Yeah.
I guess it's very steep on the other side of that,
Oh, okay, okay.
but we didn't go over there.
Okay.
We pretty much hung right on the ranch itself.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and it was really cool. So I had done the L1 seminar before,
Mhm.
like a year or two before, just in
Mhm.
the Twin Cities, and that was great too. I really had a great experience. But this was just, it was at the ranch, and I'm with like 30 of like people who, a lot of them were emergency physicians, and so we're just all peas in a pod,
Yeah.
yeah, we're all like, yeah, I get you, and so
Yeah.
had instant friends, which was really cool. And um, Glassman was there, and so that's not part of the regular L1 seminar, and he gave us
Mhm.
a talk for about an hour about just the state of healthcare in this country, which he calls the mess. And I think it's an appropriate description of that, and how we as MDs can hopefully be the leaders of the change, or bringing a methodology like CrossFit to the majority of Americans who need
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that's always what CrossFit has been intended as.
Mhm.
It's never been about competitive CrossFit. It's never been about that. It's
Right,
always
right.
been about this,
Yeah,
which is why I think in recent years they've been focusing on that.
for sure.
So we did the regular L1 seminar, and it was great just to go through a review of everything and further refine movements and watch other people. And Julie Fouché was there, who's like everybody's hero. That was super cool. And so after that, after the seminar, Greg Glassman invited everyone to his house for a party. So we got to hang out there, which I guess is what they used to do after the seminars, like back in the day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
it was cool. Yeah, and I met a lot of very interesting, cool people there. As we talked just a lot about the themes of the weekend. We got to
Mhm.
tour HQ that Monday
Okay.
in Santa Cruz or Scotts Valley, and that was really fun too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so and then so whenever they do the MDL ones, they do have continuing education now. It's called the DDC, the Derelict Doctors Club.
Okay.
So we are invited as previous participants in the MDL one. I haven't been able to make it out there yet for that, but
Okay. And would that include just like another level one that they go through, or what is the
no,
continuing
they
education?
have additional lectures uh, by other people.
Okay.
I think I forget the name of the people who were there this past time, but a lot of times they're talking about things like the cancer as a metabolic disease,
Mhm.
things like diet, optimal ways to eat, things like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So were you able to like come back from this seminar and start to implement anything into your practice, or is it kind of just like were you able to get a bunch of education on how CrossFit might help out some of your patients? Does that question make sense, or?
Yeah. So it's all information that I've heard before, right? Because it's
Mhm.
just the MDL1 seminar, but it really brought to the forefront for me that helping somebody is really more about their frame of mind towards their health, and that diet and
Yeah,
exercise are a cornerstone of that. And
for
hopefully if
sure.
you optimize all that, then you don't need any sort of pill, um,
Got it.
or medication. or you can minimize the amount that you're on, you can live a better quality of life, you know, by optimizing your nutrition and your health.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So not everybody's ready to hear those things though.
Yeah.
Especially in the ER, because they want a quick fix, right? So
Right. That's why they're there.
yeah, you gotta like choose your patients wisely. I will say just doing CrossFit and having so medical school is all about pathophysiology, people who are about illness. It's never about wellness or optimizing human performance. And so I think that's something I've really taught myself more of over the years.
Yeah.
And realizing things like musculoskeletal back issues are not really amenable to pills.
Right.
They're amenable to soft tissue work.
Yeah.
And you know, I think you were training me at the time when I had a back injury years ago now, and I was the one who had to figure out how to fix myself.
Yeah.
And I did eventually with a combination of active like ART chiropractic work. I focused on really loosening up my hip flexors, my QL, my glutes, my hamstrings. And this is all stuff that you think is obvious now to anyone who's been across for a long time and paying attention.
Right.
Like we all know this now, right? But I didn't know this as a physician. No one had ever taught this to me. And I see my colleagues who have musculoskeletal injuries, and I, in particular, one of them I said, hey, I have a great sports chiropractor if you want to see him. And he just looked at me and said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting to me what people like, you know, it's all one big like spectrum as far as I'm concerned. It depends what your problem is. And certainly if you have a good diet and nutrition or diet and physical being, you're going to probably bounce back from any sort of acute injury like this. And, you know, I went to my physician last month to get my, just my annual exam and got my blood work, and I was pleasantly surprised to see, you know, my cholesterol is right on target. My hemoglobin A1C was totally like normal. It's like, it's good, you know. And I pay very close attention to what I eat and always try to move. And I always feel better when I do that. So, but it's amazing how many people in this country don't know that or haven't paid attention to that. So.
Yeah. So you kind of have a unique experience, and obviously like other doctors around the nation and potentially around the world are starting to see like kind of the blend of like pathology. Was that correct? So pathology. Yeah. And like muscle skeletal issues and kind of like soft tissue work. Like, how do you see this maybe like blending together in the future to create something different for healthcare? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, you're asking really hard questions now.
My bad.
Well, this is something like I think that we're all kind of wondering about. I think so the CrossFit, right, in the L1 talks about the continuum, the sickness wellness continuum. And I think probably it needs to start with some education of physicians, just healthcare in general. Like, this is a thing, this sickness wellness continuum, and it's not you're sick or you're not. It's either like you're very fit, you're very well, you have your quote hedge of fitness, right? Like Jason Khalipa has talked about before. You know, I've got stuff in the bank, so I'm not worried about this finger injury. Like, if I don't make it to the gym for a week, like, it's okay, you know, like I'm still know I'm a healthy person. Like, my fitness will be there when I get back. Even though I'm not really a cardio person.
Johanna's name is Cardino. Nickname Cardino Joe.
I can't believe that I ran 4 marathons sometimes. And like they weren't like terrible times either. It's like wild. So I think we need to change our frame of reference to how we look at people, and we try to meet people where they're at. I think our hospital in particular is a little more forward than most because we have things like integrative health centers where we have a acupuncturist there, chiropractic care, physical therapy, this kind of thing. So I think blending all of that together is good.
Yeah.
And
Yes. So you guys are already kind of like taking steps towards that a little bit.
Yeah, our healthcare system has, and others have too, I know. There's definitely an area of medicine that is very forward, functional medicine, which is really interesting. And this is something I learned about, after I finished my training, but something if I was doing it all over again, maybe I would consider going into first. And so functional medicine is when Julie Fouché has talked a lot about it on her podcast, for people who are interested. But it's about if someone feels tired all the time or someone has chronic GI issues, it's not about taking, here's this pill to treat your reflux. It's like, okay, let's talk about what you do in your daily life that gives you this problem,
Yeah.
And so let's just try to get rid of the reflux instead of treating the symptom of it.
Okay. So it's kind of like looking at the lifestyle and maybe making adjustments to the lifestyle then?
Yeah, and so it might be, did you know that you have this food allergy? Doing testing for that, or like, hey, your job actually is really stressful for you. Maybe you should, how can we work with that with you? Or maybe you should quit. Like these kinds of things, so I think the quitting your job is extreme, but trying to really get at the root of a problem versus treating the symptom of it. And every physician wants to do that for somebody. None of us go into medicine. You don't go into medicine to make money. That's dumb, because it's like, I've been out of training for years now and I still have a ton of debt. I have to stay in my current career path because I literally have to pay off the debt that I took out.
Right.
Whether I like it or not. So people often are, I don't know, maybe suspicious of the healthcare system and physicians, but I would say be more suspicious of like insurance companies and big pharma rather than us as individuals, because generally we went into like healthcare to help people. And I would much rather have someone live a healthy life on no pills, no medications at all, and find out the root of everybody's problem. But you can't do that in an ER visit. You can't do that in 15 minutes in clinic.
Right.
So
this is something that a little bit different, like the functional medicine will like sit down with you, kind of talk to you, find out a little bit more about you, or is that, how does the two differ?
I think their initial intake appointments are longer, like 45 to 60 minutes. And that's the idea, is that you just really get at the lifestyle of the patient and you work together to figure out what's causing your ailment or your problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Versus, I need to make this appointment with this person for 15 minutes because I have back pain.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more in depth and detailed, and they are looking a little bit more, searching a little bit more, essentially.
Yeah, it's just a different frame of reference, a different mindset, I think, to a person's problem.
For sure.
Not that I would never want to do that in the ER, but like I'm not going to send an allergy panel from the ER. I have no idea how to do that. I've never done that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's not the intent of the emergency department, right?
Right.
So it's and it's actually not the intent of a regular family medicine office either. I mean, they have these short appointments for a reason.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they like, their volume of individual is so high that they probably can't sit down for 45 minutes with each individual.
Yeah. And it's really, a lot of good work they're doing is preventative medicine, rather, doing a history and physical, checking labs, monitoring blood pressure, things like that. Counseling obviously is great, like diet and exercise. But things like getting into in-depth interviews about your GI issue, they don't have time for that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep.
So, caveat off to a different point here. obviously you have this broken finger, but what
Yeah.
is, after this heals up, what is kind of next on the agenda for athletics?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'd signed up for Master Nationals in Orlando in April, but I feel like that's probably not going to happen now. So that's fine. I was doing that mostly for fun.
Mhm.
So I think I would love to qualify for the Legends competition again in Carlsbad, or I think it's going to be in Del Mar now at
Okay.
that outdoor venue.
Yep.
So I guess that qualifier, and then I've historically done Granite Games every year. Most years, I think all but two on a team. So hopefully, maybe we'll do that again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just like going to the gym and getting better um, and just blowing off stress, steam.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. So
That is definitely a big part of the gym.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
people
yeah.
can
So I'm
relate
glad.
to.
Yeah, I'm glad that like I don't have anything like this injury happened at an okay time, other than like my ski trip coming up. Like
Right.
it's like this is okay. I can deal with this. I didn't have
Yeah.
like this huge competition coming up. Like if the Open was still this
Oh
time of year,
man.
I would have been probably pretty bummed because
Yeah.
I do like to do the Open. So
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad at least I've got nothing major on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. When is the Legends competition? When's the qualifier for that?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's probably like in the spring sometime.
Yeah. I think it
Late
was
spring.
May, correct? I
That
think it
may,
was.
I was
Yeah.
thinking May, but I
Okay.
don't know for sure. Yeah.
Great competition for those of you that don't know about it. 35 plus age divisions. Our coach Matt helps run that. So if you guys are looking for a really cool masters competition, like Joe said, it's going to be in Del Mar this next year. Check that out. It's a ton of fun. We went to it. I think it's their third or fourth year now.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a really cool atmosphere. Every division got a ton of love. Like spectators were there. It was a blast. We went down last year. So
Yeah.
check it out, guys, if you are looking for a masters competition coming up here. So Joe, any like closing thoughts here or anything else you wanted to add or?
No. No.
Okay. So we've been closing out the podcast with we've seen this as a trend, but
Okay.
we're trying to close out with a question here.
Okay.
So what is one thing that you've learned this week or in the last month that you found interesting?
Oh. Um. Gosh, I don't know. Let's trying to fast forward. I'm going backwards in my head here.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I guess I learned actually on the news yesterday. So I've been paying attention to this coronavirus thing.
Yeah.
Because probably we're gonna get a lot of people in our ER who are freaking out about it. Um,
Yeah.
so I learned the coronavirus is about 10 times as deadly as influenza. Um,
Okay.
Influenza has a pretty low case fatality rate. It's very common, but I can't remember what like on the order of like, oh, I don't want to give a number. It was on NPR, but it has a pretty low like case fatality rate, like 0.1% or something. Um,
Influenza does.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then coronavirus was on an order of magnitude bigger than that, which was valuable for me to know as a healthcare provider.
Yeah.
That it is a little more serious, but the SARS outbreak back in like 2009 or something, if you remember that, was had a higher case fatality rate than coronavirus. So they were saying that the current case fatality rate of coronavirus is like between influenza and SARS. So I was like, that's good info to know. I also learned, yeah, I don't know, it's like very specific for you, I don't know that your listeners really care about that so much.
I mean, it's information, so
Yeah, I learned it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the Costa Rican medical system is interesting.
No X-rays.
No, the clinic I went to, so by
Oh,
accident,
Yeah, sorry. Your
Yeah,
accident
yeah,
happened in Costa Rica.
yeah. So accident happened in Costa Rica when we were on vacation. When I was surfing, this guy ran over me with his board, and we got out of the water. My surf instructor like grabbed my board. We hopped in the little van, school van, and then like drove to the clinic. And like I don't think he even put his shoes on, which was cool. And so they stitched me up and gave me a splint, and then they were like, "We don't even have X-ray capabilities." And so then I was talking with the doc there about, who's just a general practitioner. He has had med school and like completed 1 year of general training, and that's about it. And so we were just talking about all the things that he sees, and I was like, holy cow, like you see so much stuff, like no other backup, it's just you and this nurse. So that was that was pretty interesting. Yeah, and they don't even have X-rays, So
Yeah.
I gained a new appreciation for that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they saw like a bunch of crazy stuff down there too still.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So they're like they're on like this part of the country, the Nicoya Peninsula, which is pretty rural. Like we fly down there and then drive for 2.5 hours, like south and west out to the coast. And I mean, the infrastructure there is pretty poor. I think it's only like 40 miles, 30 miles to the airport, but it takes 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and part of it is dirt roads, not paved. And so this clinic, any sort of like drowning they might have, or any sort of issue at the beach, like this is the only clinic for like from that immediate community to deal with that. So
wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty, and they have like a private ambulance service they work with. We don't have that in the US. We have like we don't have like private ambulance services that clinics contract with like they do in other countries. Like we just have like so-and-so ambulance system that services like everybody,
Yeah.
They don't have like a number, like 911 to call, stuff like that. So.
Oh, okay. Sounds pretty crazy down there.
Yeah, that's how EMS used to be in this country until the 911 era, until like the 60s and 70s. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, very cool. How do people get a hold of you?
Oh, I guess probably you can always follow me on Instagram, I guess. I think I'm Johanna CM14.
No underscore or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's probably best. Yeah.
Yeah, probably best. Yeah. So if you have any questions for Joe also does a lot of research. You guys recently published a paper on heart attacks, correct?
So I do a lot of cardiac arrest research.
Yeah.
Animal research, and then some clinical research, but it's hard to do cardiac arrest research on people, so that's why we have our animal model.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions on that, or if you guys just want to follow her around as she recovers from a broken finger and continues her athletic journey here, give her a follow.
Most current interesting thing happening.
Yeah. So give her a follow. She surfs in Costa Rica, not in Minnesota. I just realized that we didn't make that connection. But
Yeah.
All good.
I was on vacation.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Joe. It was a pleasure. And we'll chat with you soon here.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Always a pleasure.
All right. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. Send this out if you guys don't mind. You can follow us on YouTube, and have a good rest of your day, guys.